I'm Richard Curran-Trussell, philosophy faculty here at Pikes Peak Community College, hosting one of our occasional programs that bring philosophical insight to the issues of life. Today we're happy to have Rebecca Jacobson and Kenneth Bauer as our guests. They're here in their roles as Pikes Peak Community College students. But besides being students, they've worn many hats. They've worn many hats, including being veterans, Army veterans, and I might add Purple Hearts veterans. They've agreed to share something of their journey with us within the framework of what we call virtue ethics in philosophy. Now, I need to give you just a little background to help set the stage for our discussion. Virtue ethics is this tradition that started 2,400 years ago by Socrates in ancient Athens. He was known to have said, "Know thyself. The unexamined life is not worth living," and that following one's moral purpose is more valuable than life itself. But finding that purpose can be quite difficult. It happens in unexpected ways, even for Socrates. His student Plato amplified many things about finding our purpose, and it embodies self-knowledge. There's often difficulty in learning who we really are, discovering our talents and gifts, our unique aptitudes, and the inner struggles, the conflicts of desires in finding our way. You know, we often trip ourselves up, being our own worst enemy. Plato's student, Aristotle, also in this virtue ethics tradition, challenged us all to attain excellence in all areas of our life, exercising an array of virtues, building our character, becoming all we can be. And then we move to contemporary philosopher Alasdair MacIntyre in this same tradition. And he challenges all of us to find our own unique quest, a grand goal of living that will give our life meaning and purpose. Where to start? To gain clarity, he invites us to examine our roots, our starting place in the world, in a particular family and culture with certain roles thrust upon us that we can embrace, modify, or even reject. And so I'd like to start with you, too, just asking a question about some of the roles that you occupied early in life that helped shape your identity in the family system. Rebecca?
Okay. Well, for me, I was a sister, a daughter, and then, like I said in my paper, like a student. But for me, I really identified early on in life with being an artist, expressing myself widely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How early? Like,
I think it was very young. Like, from what everyone's told me, I started from when I can hold a pencil, just drawing on the floor, on the table, on the wall, you name it.
Okay, yeah. Kenneth, how about you?
I held the role of a son, a brother, and then eventually when my father got ill, I had to take the man of the house lead. So really led into a leadership role throughout life. So
I think he had COPD or something,
yes.
And you were just in your early teens.
I was in my very early teens, actually at the very beginning of my teens, and my mom needed help, and from there I continued my baseball dream, but also had to be a role model for my sister and then help out my mom as much as I could.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, so there was the double loss of losing your father and then losing some of your childhood, early teen years to being kind of the man in the family.
Absolutely.
Virtue ethics also explores role models. Role models are really important. People who stand out in our life, teach us life lessons, show us what can be accomplished and maybe believe in us. And so I'd like you to describe, well, Kenneth, you're talking right now, describe some of your role models for you.
Early in life, my mom was my main role model. She had a work ethic like none other. She had values, she believed in honesty, and really instilled that into me, and really instilled to be the man I am today and treat women and others with great respect. So I always grew up holding that high in my heart. And then throughout my early time in the military, I clinged on to one of my first sergeants and really took under him, and he developed a lot of discipline and other ethics and values into my life. So it really worked out for me.
Great, yeah. Rebecca, you had some role models in K through 12 in that time period?
Yeah. Like for me, I had not just one that stuck out to me. It was both my English and my art teacher. Mm-hmm. My English teacher, he was very he molded really how I thought because he was my teacher during 9/11. And it was something that happened in our class where a student, right after we had watched the clip, it was literally no more than 20 minutes after the second plane had hit the second tower. And it was just, we were all in shock. And I remember the student just jumping up going like, we need to go kill them all. We just need to demolish the Middle East. And I just remember my teacher just out of nowhere, just quietly, calmly, and he's like, you can't do that. That's just a small group of people who acted this way. We need to be more concerned about those who've just died, those who've lost families, and those who are injured and who are now suffering with this tremendous thing that just happened. If we, and he also mentioned, it was just this one thing that ingrained in my mind after that, wow. That if we were to go out and destroy them, we're no better than Hitler. And I had also an art teacher who pretty much just taught me, like, you know, have integrity, be honest, and in everything you do. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're gonna go be working at McDonald's or something, but just have pride in everything that you do. And those two pretty much helped me realize that I wanted to go in the military.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know, two odd people.
Yeah. And I think one of them, the art teacher, had, you know, he also was a coach or something like that?
Yeah, he was a wrestling coach.
I don't picture art teachers. I see them in the studio.
Actually, you know, something is, I never actually thought he was an art teacher. I always
Really?
knew him as a coach, and then when I saw him, when I walked in my art class the first day, I'm like, what are you doing here? I never knew he was an art teacher for the longest time.
Yeah. All-Star McIntyre, contemporary philosopher, in the virtue ethics tradition, very few of us, you know, think, well, I need to become more courageous, or, you know, I'm going to practice compassion or something like that. He really had this insight that we get into virtue ethics through what he called practices, these complex human activities we're involved with others. There's standards of excellence, a degree of competition. You often put yourself under the authority of someone. And experienced a lot of challenges, internal and external. And so you both have been involved in some kind of practices. Kenny, baseball was a key practice for you. So tell us a little bit about baseball.
So growing up, I played baseball from the time I could pick up a baseball until I joined the military. Okay. And from there, it taught me teamwork, it taught me discipline. It taught me dedication. I really wanted to strive to be the best at all times. And in the state of Arizona, during my young teenage years, Little League years, I was always rated as the top prospect for catching. So with that, I mean, again, my mom took me out to the Little League field, tied me up against the fence, would throw baseballs at me so that I wasn't scared of getting in front of the ball. And you know, she really taught me that kind of.
She tied you up to the fence?
Yeah, it tied me up with bungee straps and threw baseballs at me, and it showed me it wouldn't hurt. It showed me the dedication and work ethic I needed if I wanted to be the best. And I continued that for her, and I really wanted to strive and make that major league goal, but fell short. So.
Yeah, Mom's pretty incredible.
Nowadays,
that's so politically incorrect.
Yeah.
Social services would have been all over.
Exactly.
There's a little boy on the evening news, you know, with bungee cord up to the backstop there.
Exactly. Yeah. And nowadays, I'm like, man, nobody gets that kind of treatment.
Yeah. Rebecca, the practice of art, what sort of virtues or what did you learn?
For me, it was learning to be patient.
Patient, okay.
That I'm still working on, as you know. Yeah. It's like, it was, especially when I was working with my art teacher, he taught me, because I used to think, just draw, get it down quickly. But no, he taught me, he's like, no, each stroke needs to be important. He goes, because remember, when you make that stroke, that's it. There's no going back.
With virtue ethics, the virtues can be transferred to other areas of life. There's life. I mean, talk about life. We all are making. We're as Sartre said, you know, we're painting our life story, and each stroke you can't take it back. It's on the canvas, and it's part of who we are. And so, in those practices, you do learn a lot about life, and you do learn patience and resilience, and not to be afraid. And then when you're faced with other challenges in life, those things transfer over. So, yeah, we're going to take a brief break and in a second, and then I'd like to talk specifically about how you got in the military and the virtues there, and sort of how that led you to the quest, the grand goal in living that you're currently on now. Okay.
Mom, I gotta let you go. Pull over right now! Get back here! Come on, son. Got him.
Put your nightmares to rest. PPCC's flexible online evening and weekend classes are a dream come true.
I'm interested in biology,
Here's that information.
Accounting?
Communication.
chemistry, and business.
Phlebotomy.
Night classes.
Zookeeping. Animation. Reanimation.
At PPCC, what you'll find will
I can't think of a practice that's more complicated and involved than joining the Army compared to baseball or doing art. I mean, and when we talk about practices, they often lead us to our personal quest, that kind of grand goal in living, that where we find our meaning and purpose in life. And certainly when you first joined the Army, that wasn't, the quest that you're on now hadn't emerged yet. But tell us how you got in the Army and what you sort of discovered when you got there. Rebecca?
For me, getting in the Army, I had made a promise, like, to my art teacher, because for me in school, I did not know. I thought I wanted to be an artist. I actually got an opportunity to go further on with the military from after high school, but I decided not to because my family was kind of against it. Even though they're in the military, they wanted me to pursue other options. But he made me make a promise. He goes, if at any point you question what you're doing, because I know you always wanted to help someone, go in the military. That's really what kind of stuck in my mind. So when I first went to college, wonderful years, not really doing studying at that time, but I kind of realized that, you know, I need to do something better with my life instead of just wasting it away at the college. I didn't think I was going to end up going back until now, until after I got out, actually.
Okay.
But yeah.
Kenny?
So right out of high school, I got a scholarship to play baseball and whatnot in Northern Arizona University, NAU. Got away from the house, and it was my first time being away. So I was like, I got mixed up with the wrong crowds, got everything revoked, you know. So when I got home, I saw disappointment on my mother's face, and it was the knife to the heart. And I was like, I got to do something to make her proud, you know. She's done so much for me. So I went to a recruiter's office, and originally I wanted to join the Marines. You know, they were the biggest, baddest on the planet. So I was like, all right, let's go do that. They weren't open, and the Army guy saw me, and he called me over, and he showed me a video, and I was like, I'll sign today, let's go.
What a hard sale. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, if it's that cool, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean.
And I think, Rebecca, you found another role model, Sergeant.
Yeah, Sergeant Rob. He wasn't just like a friend. He was also my disciplinarian at the same time. He liked, like you've noticed, I am very sarcastic, and I have issues using my filter when I need to. So he used.
You're on your best behavior today.
Yes, I
congratulate you. Yeah.
But like he really instilled into me, like, you know, ethics of like having, just like before, like honor, integrity. And he also made me memorize the acronym leadership.
Okay.
Because I know we had talked about it before.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. It's leadership, not with a few vowels missing, but
Yeah.
each letter stands for, one of the virtues.
Yeah, it was loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Sorry, I forgot for a minute.
Okay.
Those were like, because I remember for me, I learned them in basic, but I was like, what's the point of them? It wasn't until I became his soldier and he saw like I was already on the fast track. I came in as a nothing, like E1. And within less than a year, I was promoted already to specialist through waivers. Like people were like, you're the top. I was a PT stud or physical fitness.
Okay.
Pretty much I could run a 2 mile so quick. I could do so many push-ups for a female and do sit-ups that I was just like, they called me like the little beast because I was one of the shortest people in my platoon. So, but for him, like he made sure I knew this acronym backwards and forwards. Anytime I messed up, he's just like, guess what? Drop. And so I have to do push-ups or do something to make myself worthy of him. But like at first I thought he was just picking on me. But then I realized that he wasn't picking on me, he was trying to make me a stronger person. And also prepare me for, because I had done a quick deployment at that point, but I hadn't really seen a true deployment yet. And he was preparing me that whole time. And you know something is, I still talk to him, but if I could see him face to face, I would tell him way more. Like, I'm proud that and I'm honored that he even taught me that stuff.
Was that leadership acronym part of your training too, or did it stand out? Or?
It absolutely was. It's the base foundation for any soldier coming in. Besides the warrior ethos, it's the base foundation, and I mean it's the values that we're supposed to live by, and put those above anything else while serving. Wearing the U.S. Army name tag, and growing up coming up in such a masculine realm that I was in. Those values were really drilled into you, and I mean, if you didn't pull the trigger like on a deployment, and you didn't pull the trigger on an enemy, you violated one of the values, and you're really going to be reprimanded in such a strict way.
Which value would that one be?
It's duty would be
okay,
one,
duty.
or loyalty. To your team, or personal courage even. I mean, because it's hard. It takes a lot of personal courage to pull the trigger. So overall, it really is embedded into you.
Well, sometimes we experience a special time, a pivotal moment when everything changes. And that happened for both of you. And we have a few minutes before the next break. But so, Rebecca, could you tell us a little bit about your special moment?
Okay, like a little quick thing is that for me, I'm a female.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be outside what we call the Y, or outside the camp that we're at. I was supposed to be sitting in a desk at a cubicle, pretty much on a computer all day, just typing away. But I didn't do that. I actually got the opportunity to work on a line unit with men. I was the only female on that team. And I had a situation where I was in charge of the group. We got blown up by an IED, an improvised explosive device on the side of the road. I didn't know I'd already been injured. And I was still going. My guy, he was freaking out in the middle of it. I pretty much just started seeing, I don't know what triggered in me. I just ran up and pushed him. And then at that point I got shot. And I don't remember anything after that.
So you were shot, torso shot?
Yeah, I was shot in the torso, and not including, like, I had shrapnel in other places too.
Okay, shrapnel.
But for me I didn't care. It was more of, I guess you could say, my motherly instinct kicked in.
That's interesting, because Kenny was talking about how masculine everything is, and you've had to prove yourself over and over again to
Yes.
the guys that you could do anything just as well or better.
Yeah, I'm like,
And then you were in leadership. You were a sergeant at that point.
yeah, I was.
Yeah.
It was before, like, I had just actually got promoted at that point.
Yeah.
And it was nervous for me because I'd always worked with mixed, male and female. I've never been in charge of a group of men who never worked with a female. So I was constantly proving myself to them, like, I can do this. my loyalty to them and just duty. And I guess when I pushed my soldier out of the way, it was my personal courage, but I didn't feel like it was. It was just my duty to do that as being a leader.
Okay. That role as a leader,
Yeah.
and you were just fulfilling that role, doing your duty, and not doing all these other calculations.
No, it wasn't like I was looking for something to get out of it. I was more like, that's my, like when I saw my soldiers, I didn't see them as like them or as that. I saw them as my children.
As your children?
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of weird to say that.
Well, yeah, but it's so, even in that battle situation, you know,
It's that motherly instinct to protect.
motherly instinct to protect, and that's pretty fierce. Well, thanks. We're going to take another brief break now, and then we'll hear Kenny's story and get on to your quests. Thank you very much.
You shouldn't be out alone. You should be taking evening classes at PPCC.
Kenny, I'm interested to hear your story. There are some interesting parallels, and yet it's a different story. It's your unique.
The story dates back to 2004. I was severely wounded, and I was paralyzed for 6 months in deployment in Iraq. And
How did that? You were a combat engineer?
I was a combat engineer, and we were headed out on mission in Sadr City, and we went out to go raid a section of Sadr City, Iraq, which was considered, besides Fallujah and Najaf at the time, it's still to this day considered the most hostile area in Iraq. I mean, obviously besides Mosul and with ISIS and everything, but we were going out to do a cordon and search and take out some weaponry, take out some of the insurgents that were in the area, the Mahdi army at the time that were fighting us. And when we hit a dismount point, we were supposed to drop off 9 infantry guys, but in the time, the patrol had gotten lost and the vehicle had gotten hit by a IED, as previously mentioned, and immediately 9 dudes were dead. And 2 survived, to include myself and the TC of the vehicle. He lost both his legs, a little more severe injuries than me, but I went ahead and lost 25% of my left calf, broke my back, was shot, have burns all down my right leg, which are skin grafted and shrapnel all throughout my body, and I woke up 33 days later in a hospital and was in shock and was like, well, I thought I was out surfing in California a month ago, So with that, I had to refocus myself and know that I still had special operations goals out there. I still wanted to go fight the good fight, and I wanted to take out the enemies of our country. And with that, I continued to get better over time and blew up from 160 pounds to 240 pounds and got back into shape and decided, hey, I'm going to give this a 100% shot again, even though I'm not 100% of a human anymore. So went ahead and eventually found a new quest at the end of my tenure, but yeah.
But the doctors didn't give you a very good prognosis, and for either one of you, you know, your physical injuries almost killed you. They were surprised. They almost lost you, but then you know, they told you PTSD, or you wouldn't.
Oh, like him, I also was paralyzed.
You
in
were
my left-
paralyzed. I didn't know
Yeah, I don't like to talk about it most of the time, but
Okay. Yeah.
but yeah, it's just my left leg, and they told me it was like I was never going to function.
You're never going to function.
Like with my PTSD, I was never going to function in society again. And I had like a whole bunch of doctors tell me this, and I was just like, I'm gonna prove you all wrong. That's just
Prove
me.
you all wrong. Yeah. And Kenny, they said you'd never walk again
They
either.
said I would never walk again. At one point, they did lose me, so I was really. But they said I would never walk again, and I told my mom that day, and I said, well, I'll walk by Thanksgiving. A little longer, but started walking again.
Okay. And that's kind of clarified, I'm sorry, both of your quests, what you're here in school for and what you want to become now. So that very negative experience kind of gave you trajectories, and in both cases, proving the doctors wrong. So, Kenny, what's your goal now with
My
the
goal
training?
is to transfer from PPCC to UCCS and then get into the DPT program and volunteer my services or work for a contracting company overseas and take care of people that help out people that don't have the funds or the assets to see real physical therapists and get the help, or even help deployed soldiers to maybe work in special operations as a DPT.
And Rebecca, what about you?
I actually want to become a psychologist.
Psychologist?
Yes, because I want to go back, because I had a whole bunch of them tell me that I was so insane, I should probably be in a padded room. And for me, I've heard multiple stories of this where we've had soldiers who are just told that every single day. So I want to go back and actually help them. And, you know, instead of hearing that sympathy play or for them from everyone is going, oh, I understand where you're coming from. That's what I actually want to do, is I really understand where you're coming from, and I want to help you instead of medicating you.
All right, yeah. The doctors, with all their authority and training, really kind of essentially pronounce your lives as over, as you formerly knew them, and certainly in some way that's true. But you made a decision. You chose not to give up. And Epictetus, one of our Stoic philosophers, said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And both of you made a choice, and that's kind of conditioned where you are right now and your trajectory for the future, your grand goal in living, finding that purpose and meaning. And I'm just really honored to have had that story shared, you know, with me and then with the folks watching here. It's kind of interesting that in virtue ethics, one's identity, one's true purpose is finding out who you are and what your purpose in life is. And if we find our passion, I think we can attain what the Greeks called the flourishing life both for ourselves and for our community. And in this process, we might discover that our own greatest happiness and making the world a better place are not ultimately in conflict. Often they coincide. Thank you for joining us. I'm Richard Trussell, and I wish you the best in your quest.